That is your brain activating not only nostalgia, but activating play. Because what came before that sandwich? Play. You were laughing. One of my favorite parts of my favorite place is that people will see our cars out front. My favorite place is my co-working and social club that I own with my business partner, Brandy. And people will see our cars up front and they'll stop in and they'll sit and they'll grab blankets and we'll talk and we'll laugh. We'll pop champagne. Maybe sometimes we make coffee or whatever. And we'll sit and we'll talk and we'll be in community and we'll laugh and we will play together. And inside of that play, you create creativity. Hi, welcome to Say More Words, a podcast that was created to emphasize the human experience through stories. I hope that you come here to learn, to expand, and most importantly, learn how to say more words. Speak your story, speak your truth, boo-boo. We're so happy you're here. Hi, how are you? Welcome back to Say More Words. Our song of the day is Little Boo Thang by Paul Russell. I don't know that it's been a song of the day yet. If it has, blessings. It makes me so happy. That song makes me happy. I can't help but dance when I hear it. I wish that we could play music on podcasts without getting canceled. It makes me so happy. If it doesn't make you want to get up and dance, I don't know what's wrong with you. It's very much a TikTok song. So enjoy on the playlist. And it's appropriate today because we are talking about play. And I'm going to pick up my phone here for a second. For those of you that are watching me and I'm looking down, those of you that are listening, I am so very thankful for those of you who listen to the podcast and drop in to my DMs. You send me an email, send me a text message talking about how the podcast has helped you. I'm so very thankful that you do that. And I'm also thankful for the people who reach out and are like, hey, I'm having a hard time with this, or hey, could you talk about this? Because that really does help me draft the narrative and draft the conversation with y'all to make sure that I am not relevant, right? Not to make sure that I'm relevant, but making sure that I'm bringing you content that works for you. So I had someone who messaged me and wanted me to kind of talk a little bit about, so we had an episode that was all about pausing. And in the show notes, I will reference that episode for you. I can't remember what episode number it is, but we talked about the great pause and how sometimes people just don't want to pause. And it's a really important conversation to have, especially during the summertime when, I don't know if you have kids or not, but when the world opens back up, right? Summer is the time for things to grow and life is happening for us instead of against us. It feels like we're out in the summer, we're getting our vitamin D, we're in the water, we're seeing our people. Like summer is just the great almost rebirth for a lot of people and the emotions and the way that you feel. And so it's good to talk about the pause because I don't know about y'all, but when summer hits, while I am so very thankful for the weather, it sometimes is real hard to do all of the things that we need to do to try and get on all of the trips and go to the places and see the things and be everywhere. Sometimes it's kind of hard. I mean, I am so very, and I will tell you, I'm very blessed to be loved by the best people on the planet who I want to see, and they live all over the place. I am so very blessed in that matter. But my schedule is insane. And I know a lot of people, their schedules are insane as well. And so I just want to kind of give you that space of understanding that it is important that you give yourself space for pauses. But this listener and a good friend of mine was like, can you talk about pausing and can you talk about play? If you are not following me on social media, I highly suggest it at the Tamika Taylor on all social media platforms, and also Say More Words podcasts on all social media platforms. But I'm specifically talking about the Tamika Taylor. I just saw Inside Out 2. And you know what? I think my people are probably sick. You might be sick of it. You might be one of my people and you're like, I don't want to hear about Inside Out 2. And I'm not going to talk in depth about Inside Out 2. I did an entire live on Instagram this week about Inside Out 2. And I will link it in the show notes if you want to hear it. There are spoiler alerts, but talking about emotion. and why it's so very important, and why it's so very important that Pixar is doing such a magical thing teaching our kids the language of emotion and how to understand their emotions. I mean, it's just powerful. And I cried through the whole thing. And I haven't stopped crying yet, right? Like I can't stop. So, but one of the most important parts about it is that the movie, if you are new here and you haven't seen Inside Out 1 or 2, it Inside Out and Inside Out 2 basically go through the emotions inside of a child's brain. So Inside Out 1 is about of a 6 or 7 year old, maybe 8. And then Inside Out 2 is when puberty hits, so probably 12, 13. And it looks at the different emotions and how our complex emotions start to develop and all of our basic emotions. It's just beautifully put together. But what's really cool inside of it is they talk about imagination. And so that's what we're going to talk about today is imagination and play. So specifically, this listener wanted to hear more about play and pause and why it's important, especially as adults. So we've talked about the anatomy of a pause and why it's important for you to pause. But here's the deal. You've heard me say it. Let's say it again. We are gigantic toddlers with credit cards, right? We are gigantic toddlers with credit cards. And we forget the importance of an imagination and the importance of play. While pausing is important, play is also super important. Pausing is where you kind of step back and you give yourself space and you breathe. And sometimes people have hard pauses where they just sleep for a couple days or they escape for a couple of days. But play can also be a pause. Play is something that ignites your soul. I like to tell people all the time, like, if you need rest and you need to pause, sometimes it's our body, our business, our minds. It's a culmination of a perfect storm that causes us to have to pause. And that's important, right? That's a form of rest. Play, though, play comes into the picture when our souls are tired. Okay, when your soul is tired. And I want you to think about that because, it took for somebody else telling me that for me to kind of understand it or to even want to be in the space of understanding what it looks like and what it feels like when your soul is tired. When your soul is tired, you become uninspired by your everyday things. It gets hard to get out of work. You may be experiencing levels of depression. And not all the time, but sometimes. You may feel a lack of creativity or a lack of inspiration, a lack of wanting to do this life. And it doesn't have to be as dramatic as wanting to leave this earth, right? It doesn't have to be that dramatic, but sometimes you just are like, look, this life just isn't doing it for me. I don't feel anything. I don't feel happy. I don't feel sad. I feel just uninspired, is the best way to put it. And that's when your soul gets tired. What's really cool about Inside Out 2, and I'm not going to try and spoil it for a lot of people, but they bring in new emotions like anxiety and embarrassment and envy. And anxiety, they accurately display. One of the moments in the movie that made me cry the most is when they accurately display for a child's mind to kind of understand, but even for an adult to understand what it feels like inside of your mind when you're having a panic attack or having an anxiety attack. It is the most wild thing to watch and to experience. I'm not going to lie to you. It's wild. But what they do too is they make you realize is that your anxiety mixed with the thoughts that are happening in the back of your head can give you a place, or not even just the thoughts in the back of your head, but mixing with your imagination can allow you to draft stories and draft narratives that aren't real. And so it can create all of these stories, these futuristic stories that you're trying to combat, and it can lead to a massive anxiety attack when you're not understanding yourself or the world around you. A lack of imagination, too, is a lack of creativity, which is a lack of soul understanding, which becomes blah. And that's why play is so very important. We encourage our children. If you have children or you have small children around you, you don't have to have your own. I'm sure every person around has a child that they love. We encourage children to play regularly. And then one of the things they accurately display in the movie is that we become adults and we think that that has to go away. We're told that we need to grow up, that we need to lose our imagination, that we need to do all of these things. And then what ends up happening is we become shells of ourselves. We lose our creativity. We go to work. One of the things, I found a journal of mine recently, and this is why it's important to journal, people. This is why it's important to journal. I found a journal recently of from years ago, and in it I wrote, there has got to be more to life than waking up and going to work and coming home. And I'm going to find it. And I do believe that I have found it. Well, yes, I do work a lot and I get to spend my time, loving on people and helping people. There's more. I know there's more to life than the four walls that I work in. And there's more to life than your four walls. And when I get into that space, when I get into this blah space, I start to realize, oh, I've stopped playing and I've stopped the creativity in my life. Now, I'm very blessed. I have two children who push me into creativity all of the time. But there's a lot of adults around who don't get into that space. You just get stuck in this mundane. And then you do ridiculous things like you tell yourself that you can only pause or play if you hit certain goals, and if you don't hit those goals, you punish yourself. When in actuality, I want you to flip the script and I want you to incorporate more play into your life, because what that does is it harnesses this energy that brings your soul to the surface. It takes it from this very dim light and it lights your ass on fire, and you are more creative, you are more powerful, you are more XYZ, all of the better things when you are in a space in which your soul feels supported, when your soul doesn't feel tired. And play is how you do that. There's certain things like I think I've said it here before, and if I haven't, I'm gonna tell you now. One of the things that lights my ass on fire is a meme or a reel that is so ridiculous it makes me laugh and it makes me cry. I love stickers. I love stickers and I love coloring and I love highlighters and I love pens, because I loved back to school shopping as a child. And so sometimes as an adult, I will break out the coloring books and I'll break out the stickers and I'll break out the markers and I'll spend time in that space again, because it activates my imagination in that play, which activates my creativity and it sets my soul on fire. See, here's the deal. We are not doing enough things in our day-to-day life that sets our soul on fire. We become mundane adults. And inside of the movie Inside Out 2, she's like, I guess that's what happens. Adults just lose their joy. And I'm here to tell you that it does not have to be like that. You have to incorporate more play into your life and stop using it as a reward for your goals. Instead, use it to then enhance and spark the fire inside you to achieve your goals. People love summer. And yes, it has a lot to do with the fact that we're outside and we're getting vitamin D, but they love summer because they're playing. I've got friends that are jumping off and they're at lakes every weekend, or they're with their friends, or they're with their kids in the pool. Hell, I'm in most of my friends' pools on the weekend because we don't have a pool, but all my friends do. You're spending more time with the people you love. That's igniting the play inside of your heart. That's setting your soul on fire. In fact, we were at the pool with one of my husband's assistants this weekend. Her family has a pool, and we started talking about that sandwich. Y'all know that sandwich. You know that sandwich. That turkey and cheese sandwich on white bread, cold from the cooler, with some Ruffles chips stuffed, or Doritos chips stuffed in it after being in the pool all day. That sandwich hits. It slaps so hard, unlike any other food. You can go to a Gordon Ramsay gourmet, blah, blah, blah bullshit, but it has nothing on that pool sandwich. And Sophia and I just sat there in that space and we're like, man, that sandwich is so good. And you all know that sandwich. You're probably smiling because you're thinking about that sandwich right now. That is your brain activating not only nostalgia, but activating play. Because what came before that sandwich? Play. You were in the water. You were with your friends. You were having a good time. You were laughing. Incorporate more of that into your life. One of my favorite parts of my favorite place is that people will see our cars out front. My favorite place is my co-working and social club that I own with my business partner, Brandy. And people will see our cars up front and they'll stop in and they'll sit and they'll grab blankets and we'll talk and we'll laugh. We'll pop champagne. Maybe sometimes we make coffee or whatever. And we'll sit and we'll talk and we'll be in community and we'll laugh and we will play together. Human connection is important, but experiences that set your soul on fire are even more. And inside of that play, you create creativity. And if you're thinking about this and you're like, I don't even know, like, what do I do for play? One of the hardest questions, I'm gonna be honest with you. One of the worst interview questions that I'm ever asked is, what are your hobbies? I don't know. I can't accurately, like, I don't know. Like, I don't paint. I'm not playing tennis or pickleball like everybody else, but I am sitting around having a really good conversations with people. I'm going out to Mexican restaurants, and that's not really a hobby, but I am having patio margaritas and I'm laughing with my friends. Like, I can tell you the things that I do that sets my soul on fire. I look at memes and I send funny memes and I hear a song that sets me on fire. It's harder for me to figure out what my hobbies are, but I can tell you what I do for play. I can tell you what I do for fun. Okay. It's the people, it's the experiences. And if you're having a hard time and if you're listening to this and you're like, I don't know what I do for play, right? Like, I go to work and I come home. I don't have a lake house and maybe all of your friends don't have pools during the sun. It's not summer all of the time. But one of the greatest activities you can do to ignite your imagination again and find your play is do what you like to do as a kid. Figure that out. What did you like to do? Did you like to color? Did you like to build Legos? Did you like to collect baseball cards? Did you love creating forts or experiences outside? What was it? What set your soul on fire when you were 5 and 6? Do those things as an adult and see how it starts to spark your imagination again. It sounds simple. It sounds ridiculous. But sometimes all I need to do is sniff a box of crayons to have creative thoughts come back and to create play. Play can be as big as binging out on Netflix and having sleepovers with your friends, which I highly recommend. We stopped doing that as adults too. And, me and a group of my girlfriends, we may not get to have sleepovers, but we get together at least once a quarter and we have big, outrageous dinners. And we always end up singing and dancing throughout our homes. And we're all in pajamas, or sometimes we come in outfits and there's themes. And we get to experience that slumber party feeling, and then we all go back and sleep in our own beds because we're old, right? But we get to have that experience, like, be with your people again. So it can be small experiences. It could be food, it could be music, it could be dancing around your house, it could be that. And it also can be like jumping on a plane, going on a trip. One of the greatest things, there's a lot of actually, one of my coaches told me when they realized that my soul was tired, they told me, you just need to go to the beach. Why? Because I've surrounded myself with people who understand me. And when they understand me and they understand my heart, they can call me out on my own bullshit. That's why it's important to have people on your team. It's important to have people in your corner. And he said, Tamika, I think you need to go to the beach. I think you need to take a sabbatical and go into this space where you feel light again, because at the beach, nothing can go wrong. Literally nothing. Mm-mm. Nope. I refuse to believe that anything can go wrong at the beach. I know hurricanes and shit had. I dismiss that. I rebuke that in the name of the Lord. Nothing bad can happen to me there. And so I got called on it. You need to go to the beach. I need you to experience the world. I need you to breathe, right? I need you to play again, because that's what sets my soul on fire. And that's what allows me to be creative and allows me to show up for others. So just sit here in this space and think about it. Adult swearing coloring books exist if you want to go that route. I will also tell you, if you grew up in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, Walmart and Sam's Club and Costco, and if you're a girl, listen up, they sell Lisa Frank coloring books. And Walmart has some of the best comic book coloring books around, and they're like $3. And a box of crayons is still 89 cents. And you can go have a little bit of childhood nostalgia and play and see what it does. See what it does. But I am giving you permission today, and I need you to give yourself permission too to play. Now, I'm not saying go on a 12-week bender that ruins your family and all of your life and your career. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is pause and play and see what it does. Work more play into your workday. Work more play into your life and see how it changes everything. See how it changes your productivity. See how it changes your outlook on life. When my soul gets tired, which is different than my body getting tired. Typically, my body is tired from my soul being tired because your emotions will change your body. The body keeps score pretty regularly. But when my soul is tired, I go back to play. And I try and laugh as much as possible. You will hear people say, try and laugh through the pain. And I do agree. At some point, you do need to laugh through the pain. Some pain is important to feel. It's important to understand. And it's important to learn and grow from. But at some point, I promise you, you'll laugh again. I am a Sex and the City girly. I am. I grew up on it, which is kind of weird, but still true. And there is a quote from the Sex and the City, the movie, the first one. She's like, "Am I ever going to laugh again?" And her friends say, "Yes. When something is really funny, you will laugh again." Am I ever going to laugh again is sometimes a quote that we feel when our soul is just so tired. And you know that feeling. And it's different for all of us, right? The feeling is different for each person, but you know it, you understand it, and you feel it. So when your soul gets to that point where you are just so tired and you're like, am I ever going to laugh again? Go back to play, no matter how small, how big, or whatever it is that you need to do. Find that childlike wonder when you're 5 or 6, that thing that lit your ass on fire, and light the spark. Because I'm going to tell you, when you can get to the point of laughter and you can get to the point of childlike wonder and childlike imagination, that is the spark that creates and changes literally everything. It changes everything. Okay? It sets that soul spark back. So try that out. This is your permission. Quit using play as a reward. Instead, use it as a foundation at which you create your biggest success. So here's permission. Go play. I'll see y'all next week.